Hey, Star Wars fans and Rule the Galaxy fans, and welcome to another week of Rule the Galaxy podcast. I'm your host, Dave. This week, Joe is out this week, so you're back with the Rule the Galaxy After Dark crew, the crew that covered House of the Dragon, that covered Andor a couple weeks. The gruesome. I was going to say the gruesome twosome, but it's more of a threesome. That's kind of a weird way to start.
Right. Do we have to give an earmuff warning?
Yes.
It's After Dark. Just earmuff it for me, all right?
Yeah, so it is me, Brent, and Alfie, and we are here for chapter 187 of Rule the Galaxy podcast, and we're going to send it around the horn right now. We'll start with Alfie. Alfie, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. Really enjoyed this episode, and, always happy to talk the wars, as Brent says.
I got for a second, so I got a little screwed up. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
We're all good.
We're off to a roaring start. Brent, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, and I remarked earlier, if this is 187, there's gonna be a murder somewhere, and right off the top, you murder me out of it by calling it the gruesome twosome and then forgetting about me. So I'm already getting murdered off the top of the show.
Well, I knew it was three of us here, but I was going to say the gruesome twosome. I don't know.
Right. You already committed a 187 on me right before we start the show. I feel like Wilco at this moment. All right.
Exactly.
You pulled a rampart on me.
And we haven't had, we're going to be talking about, some Star Wars news tonight. Obviously, the newest episode of The Bad Batch. Order 69 has not happened yet. I'm waiting for Order 69 to happen.
Oh, from my brain went to Order 66, and I was like, wait a minute, it has happened, but no, Order 69 has not yet.
Yeah, that's when all the clones are going to be gone.
I don't know. They just keep disappearing, though. We'll get to it, but they just keep disappearing.
You guys aren't watching the right Star Wars films.
This is true. You have to have special access for those. I don't know if I have that access yet.
I know. And
Just
Order
be
69,
sure to clear a web browser afterwards.
Order 69 on Google probably would yield something, I'll say.
It does.
So
in all fairness, there is an actual Wikipedia page for Order 69.
Oh, so it actually exists?
Kind of.
All right. Well, you guys out there who
you're
are
gonna have
right.
Somebody's gonna log on Wikipedia and just check it out just to see if Alfie put something on. We need to get, what's his name? What was the guy?
Willie Harms or Tom Line? One of those guys?
No, the guy we had on, the Supreme Emperor, the Supreme Emperor.
Yeah.
He's gonna come at us again with Order 69 on Twitter.
Exactly. Yeah, we need the history of it.
Just to clear it up, it's pretty obvious that it's a parody. It's lighthearted and fun, but I won't go into the details. You can look that up yourself.
All right.
I'm going to tomorrow. I'm not gonna lie.
It doesn't disappoint either. It doesn't. It's pretty good.
All right. Well,
so
we're off to a great start. Yes,
we are after dark.
Absolutely. So I got a couple notes here. I didn't see anything too crazy as far as Star Wars news this week. I jotted some stuff down. Joe had some stuff, and I know Alfie has some. One thing I wanted to hit on, which was announced today, is the Mandalorian trailer will be premiering. What is it, this Saturday?
Monday.
ABC. So whenever ESPN, ABC has a game. So Monday, I think.
January 16th.
Monday, January 16th. You will
During
have
halftime.
Yes, you'll have to watch a football game, which I will be watching anyway. And did they confirm during halftime?
Yes, the ESPN press release says halftime of the Monday Night Football wildcard game on January 16th.
Yeah, so we're going to get a new Mando trailer, which I'm extremely excited about. The comment section was pretty funny on Twitter reading it, because there was a lot of people saying, like, I don't want to have to watch football to see this trailer. Like, I know it usually just goes out on YouTube, like right when it releases on TV.
It's still that kind of fun Super Bowl, mentality of, waiting the whole game for halftime to start. And then, the announcers usually get into it and, give a nice lead in and it starts. I think The Last Jedi was shown at was it a Bears game on Monday Night Football?
I think you're right, because I know I watched that when they revealed that trailer.
I think you watched it first, like at the game or in the game, and then it cut to commercial and showed it more in a theatrical way.
I love marketing for a movie like that when it's just hardcore, when they're doing stuff like that. Like I hope there's something with the Mandalorian like that. I hope we're going to hear Joe Buck and Troy Aikman do one of those spiels where like you can tell the announcers,
yeah. They have no idea what they're talking about.
Oh yeah, I can hear Aikman just stumble over it and try to act like he's excited for Star Wars.
Well, Troy, as the battle rages on the field, there's a battle going on elsewhere, and that's on Mandalore.
Joey's got to do a skit of that.
I know. Little Joe Buck, Troy Aikman action.
At the same time, wouldn't it be kind of cool if they just nerd out for a second and they actually are true Star Wars fans?
Oh, I would love that. I'm a Joe Buck fan personally. I mean, he's hated in Philadelphia, but I'm a fan of his actually.
They drop a Mara Jade reference or something before they go to it.
I'm thinking The Force Awakens was during a halftime of NFL game, and it wasn't really nerdy or anything, but you could tell the announcer was really excited for it. Like he couldn't get through his spiel fast enough to be able to watch it.
Dude, that was 2015. Lots happened in my life since then. Before that, I had no idea.
It does seem like forever ago, honestly.
I mean, that's an eternity in my life.
Yeah.
Can you imagine Ryan McGee if they? Can you imagine Ryan McGee?
I know I'm a nerd, so
it's true.
I mean,
I'm a nerd as well, but I'm not. Seriously, I could not remember back to when that happened.
I can still remember going to see Happy Gilmore, not Happy Gilmore. No, the football
just to see
the episode 1 trailer. I saw it twice that day.
Yeah. If there was ever a movie that the trailer got me insanely hyped for, that I was like shaking before going into the movie, it was the Incredible Hulk movie with Eric Bana playing Hulk. If you remember that movie.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
I was a kid then, and
you were David's age, weren't you?
I was probably like 10, I'd say.
Okay.
I wanted my money back after that movie.
I went and saw it. I remember my brother was like, "That sucked." I'm like, "No, it didn't. It was great." I like had the figure and everything. Like I couldn't comprehend. Like I remember everybody like saying it was a horrible movie, and I'm just like, I loved it. Oh man. Anyway, moving on. Another note that I have is that this was from Star Wars stuff on Twitter, that it's been revealed that the Wolves will be making an appearance in the Ahsoka show. Now, I still have not finished Star Wars Rebels. That's a problem. I've only watched about half of that show. Is more of her interaction with the Wolves in Rebels or in Clone Wars? Because I have them mixed up. Rebels.
She didn't really interact. It was Ezra that was the one that interacted. That was an Ezra thing.
Okay. Well then,
because one of Ezra's things is you watch it, and I'm sure you've seen this in season one and season 2, since you're halfway through. Ezra seems to have a force connection with animals. That's one of his skills that he starts to develop, is he can kind of sense them, he can talk to them, and he can communicate with animals. And the dire wolves in Lothal have some powers, and Ezra is able to connect with them. So that's more of an Ezra thing than it was an Ahsoka thing. So I guess that's also telling me that Ezra will be making more of an appearance than just cameos. I know they have a guy. I know he's there, but he may be more central to the plot than just a couple like side character, supporting character.
And when's our release on Ahsoka again? Do we know that by any chance off the top of our heads right now?
I think it's spring.
It's in 23, right?
Yeah, spring at the earliest, I think. So March, April, May. If I remember correctly, I don't have any definitive answer. I'm just going based upon what I can kind of remember people talking about. until it gets pushed back like the Bad Batch or something like that. But I thought it was March, April, May.
I honestly think this is going to be an excellent.
There's no official yet. It's just 2023.
Okay.
2023. All right. As long as it's coming within the next year. I mean, we got plenty of stuff coming out within the next year. So I think it's going to be an awesome year for Star Wars. I really do. Although last year was good. We got a lot of good content last year. Not that I loved all of it, as you guys heard last episode. If you haven't listened, you can check that out. But yeah, I just have a very good feeling about this year because I feel like it's already starting off with a bang right now. So Alfie, you had some news points too. What did you want to hit on?
Okay, following up with the Ahsoka news, Skeleton Crew will be wrapping up in March, which to me seems a lot sooner than would be expected. I was figuring that would just getting started, but it's from what I've been reading, it's been filming right alongside Ahsoka, and March isn't that far away. So could it be a late 2023 release as well?
Because remember, Book of Boba Fett took about 6 months from post production, if I remember correctly. Again, and we can argue about the quality of the post production on that, right? That can be left to be desired. But I feel like Obi-Wan and Boba were about a 6 months post production, so that would put us basically Christmas time ish, November, December, Christmas time, for if we're talking about a 6 month post production.
Yeah, because it's still listed as coming out in 2023.
So I'm not sitting here and telling you that that's exactly what's going to come out, but
sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's crazy to me is I just went on IMDb and just looked it up for the hell of it, just to do a checkup when Alfie was talking about it. And they still only have Jude Law as the only actor listed on IMDb. Like, I don't know anybody else who's going to be in this show.
Well, it's going to be kids. I mean, we're going to and so they might be keeping the names of them because who knows who they are.
Goonies in space.
It doesn't matter. What's that?
Goonies in space.
Well, I don't know. Everybody tries to say Stranger Things in space too. So if you read any or listen to any of the Star Wars stuff or read any of the posts, they're trying to say it's a, I don't know. It's a gang of kids going through.
Oh, but yeah, to me, Stranger Things is the kind of new take of Goonies.
Like a horror take too, right? Yeah. So it's not like Goonies is more the comedy adventure, and this is more horror. Stranger Things is more horror,
which I definitely think is going to be fun. I'm like, I really think this show is going to be sneaky good. You know, they got an A-list actor and Jude Law in it and everything. So
solid A-list actor.
Solid A.
Okay, another real quick one here.
I got oceanfront property in Utah.
Let's go to our Rule the Galaxy board here, and let's put a pin in these two guys' names. Dan Hernandez and Benji Samit. Okay, they are currently developing an unannounced project with Lucasfilm. And
this is the Ghosts or whatever, the Ghosts of Christmas Past. No. What's the one that's, I thought they were developing the one with or Favreau and Filoni were developing one as well.
Yeah, that is, give me just a second here, Ghost Track 17.
All right, I knew it had Ghost in it. That's why I said Ghost of Christmas Past. So Ghost Track 17 is like the code name that somebody's leaking and saying they're developing.
That's the production name.
Right, because Andor had a different production name too.
Pilgrim.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think. Or maybe that was Kenobi.
I think Pilgrim was a working name of one of the episodes, because I do remember that being connected as they were talking about when Andor was being filmed. I think Pilgrim was either the show or it was the actual episode of the show that they were working on.
Okay, and you brought up the Loth Wolves in Ahsoka, so I'm going to go ahead and say that spoilers are welcomed here at Rule the Galaxy Now. We're getting talk of Praetorian Guard showing up in Mando Season 3.
Ooh.
Now, could this be some more
Snoke?
Breadcrumbs to
Snoke?
Hey, like I always say, you had Andor filming wrapping up right around the same time that Ahsoka was starting, and you got Andy Serkis there. You got cameras. He doesn't really need a whole lot. Could he show up again? Or will these be more of a Mandalorian style Praetorian Guard for our certain big bad of the series?
Okay, so here's another question for you, because this guy is pretty much like amateur hour, as Alfie likes to call me. And I'm sure there's probably somebody else that doesn't know the lore of the Praetorian Guards. So where, like, I know they are protecting Snoke.
They did a bang up job too.
I mean, I don't know. Like, they had cool weapons. I'm not gonna sit here and lie about that. They had cool weapons. What is their lore? Where do they come from, aside from being the protectors?
I don't really know. I'm hoping that this series, if they're in this series, maybe it'll give them a little bit more of a story. I always just thought, I'm sure I could look it up and read about it, but if there is anything, but I thought they were just royal guards on steroids that knew karate,
Well, they also had they had the shoulder pads and the bubble. They had more of the bubble stormtrooper armor versus the cloth armor.
And that was one thing I always liked too about the sequel trilogy. Marked it down. I said things that I liked about the sequel trilogy. I thought
you always liked the guard.
Anti-lightsaber armor was cool. The way it crackled and had like an electrical effect to it. Like, I don't know, they perfected somehow to guard against lightsabers.
Yeah.
And their weapons were pretty cool too, because they like their nunchucks kind of expanded. Yeah. And they had like an electro whip to them.
Yeah, and they had like an electrical blade or something.
Yeah.
Like a lightsaber, but not a lightsaber. Right. I don't know. I would imagine they're probably Moff Gideon's guards, but will they? I mean, we always talk about how the Clone Wars made the prequels better. Will Mando make the sequels better? Give us some more information.
And I guess the other part is, if you're talking Praetorian Guard, are you talking about the beginnings of the First Order? And are we going to actually get some of what Alfie's been craving of who the hell are they and why the hell are they there?
Yeah, because I was going to follow that up with, if you go back to the beginning of Mando, there's an interview with Favreau and Filoni, and they talk about how eventually you'd see the First Order and how they come about. So I don't know.
I mean, could Moff Gideon be the man who created the First Order in the long run of all of this, or is he not that big? Like,
I don't know, because just like Brent was saying, like I always talk about, there's not really a good story of where the First Order came from. I think it kind of morphed a couple times through the 3 movies. And, and if you think about Snoke, like if he was a clone of the Emperor, did he just show up one day and like everybody's like, oh, you're our leader? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. The first movie kind of made it seem like he built the First Order, and then they say he's a clone. So how does he know so much? How do people know him? I don't know.
I can see him being a clone who builds the First Order, and this is how you see him starting to build the First Order, right? Like, I mean, he's being controlled. He has the Force. He's manipulating, so he's building the power. He's got Hux under his power until Kylo comes along.
But what was the point of the First Order when you have the Final Order?
Exactly. Yeah.
I just don't get it. I need someone to explain this stuff to me and like put it out into a timeline. Because like, and this is, I hate to get off on a tangent here, but I have to say this. This is one of my biggest problems with the sequel trilogy. And actually, I'm not even going to say the sequel trilogy. I'm going to say the acquisition of Star Wars by Disney. Because they bought Star Wars and said, look, we're making our own story, right? We're starting from scratch. And in a few years, they had the story so mumbled up, it doesn't make sense anymore. Like there's a Kylo Ren comic, I understand it's a comic, so it's like D canon or whatever, but this is the story that you erased all the other stories to make. And in it, Kylo Ren says to Snoke, I can't believe what Luke did to you, or what Master Skywalker did to you, referring to his injuries. But then we see in Rise of Skywalker, he already has the injuries inside the pickle jar thing. So that doesn't really make sense. to me, if you're going to wipe out decades of stories to make your own, you think it would be a little more cohesive and not so contradictory.
Yeah, I agree. That's why it's like you're talking about the Praetorian Guards or whatever. It's like I feel like those are something that everybody agrees was cool from the sequel trilogy, and I feel like that's what they're going to do if they're going to tie in anything. I think they're going to kind of stay away from controversial plot points and stuff, because honestly, it's like I'm looking forward to a new big bad, and it's like if everything's leading towards the sequel trilogy in a lot of these shows we're watching, then technically Palpatine is just the big bad still in all of this, because he's the one who was pulling all the strings all along, like in the long run. So I don't know. It's like I want it to exist separately from it. I'm cool if we see types of characters that we saw in those, because I mean Babu Frick is going to be in Mando season 3. They showed that in the trailer. So like I'm excited to see him again, because he was awesome. Everybody loved him. How could you not love him? But we'll see, I guess. We'll see where they're going. You know what's an odd thing that I thought the other day? Do you think that Moff Gideon is force sensitive in any type of way? It's just a random thought.
Why?
Because
he had
he's
no problem
very
handling the
confident.
Darksaber.
He had no problem handling the Darksaber. He crashed the TIE fighter, was totally fine, cut himself out of it. He's just very confident for a guy who's just wearing, an Imperial officer uniform, in my opinion. He's not afraid. And like that's what I was thinking to myself. I'm like, could he be force sensitive and he's just holding it back? He hasn't felt the need to use it. I mean, he did have the Dark Troopers, but I don't know. It's just something that crossed my mind the other day. I was actually staring at my figure on the shelf back here and was like, are you force sensitive?
I think that's an argument you can make a lot about a lot of characters, and it's one of the themes of Star Wars that, again, I think the sequel trilogy touched on but didn't completely go all the way through. Lots of people can be force sensitive. It's just a matter of whether or not you expand upon that. You may have a base of sensitivity. Now, can you take the next step and grow those skills?
Right. And it's how much of that do you have? And it is a theme of Star Wars. But if you're going to say that, and I don't know if you've read The Heir to the Empire or any of the other Thrawn stuff, some people would say that the decisions that Thrawn makes would be like he could see the future, and that because he's playing the long game, he's willing to lose a battle to win the war. The way that he makes decisions and the way that he carries himself, some people, if you don't know the whole story, would say that he might have some force sensitivity if it was exposed to you in that same way. However, he's also finding animals that take away force sensitiveness, and he still has his power, or he still has his savvy about him. So it's not necessarily a force power, but if you take that away, you didn't put those skunks or whatever the hell he had, lizards,
just calamari or something.
Yeah, whatever the hell they're called. Like, if he didn't have those animals on board the ship, you would say that he would come across as a force sensitive individual as well.
Han Solo being able to fly through an asteroid field.
Never tell me the odds, right? Like, so there are things that you can point to where there's a lot of people that could show force sensitivity, but I think this is also a problem with Star Wars fans, is they want to see. We are so not starved, but we're so spoiled by the surprise twist and force and somebody being forced that we're always looking for a surprise twist in every single thing that we watch, and we're always looking for somebody to be a force sensitive. Those are the two things. If you read posts, you listen to other podcasts, everybody's hoping that somebody's force sensitive or there's some surprise twist. And if there's not a surprise twist, then it's a filler episode.
Somebody comes back from the dead.
And that's the surprise twist, right? Like,
right.
It just seems like people are so starved or spoiled, and they think that that's like, they feel like that is like that's a hallmark of Star Wars. And some of the people that didn't like Andor because it didn't have a lot of the surprise twists. It was one that was pretty straightforward. What you saw is what you got. There wasn't really much surprise in there.
True. That's true. Yeah, I mean, all right. While we're on this, because we're talking a decent amount of sequel trilogy right now.
Okay.
So
Let me get one more thing in here before I forget.
Go ahead.
Because Joe's not on here tonight, and he kills any of this talk. Okay. Ubisoft, who's developing the new Star Wars game, put out a statement that their open world Star Wars game will boast a fully open, seamless universe. Basically, you can go anywhere and do anything.
Yes. That's exactly what we need. I am jacked about that.
Yeah, now, that would be something. Ahead.
This is not the one that's being made by this is not like the
it's not Eclipse.
High Republic one. Okay, not Eclipse.
It's not Eclipse, because Eclipse is going to be like way before, and it's going to have whole new races that they're going to introduce into it. So that's almost like a Dune Star Wars crossover in a way. Is the way it sounds like. I mean, it sounds like it happens in a early timeline or some other distant timeline, but still has some Star Wars ties. Is the way that I've heard about Eclipse. But so when you say that it's going to be a complete open world,
all I can say is go by their statement. And it says, in the game, players will be able to jump between systems, immersing themselves in a vast galaxy, bursting at the seams with activities. At the heart of the game sits an in-depth, lengthy story driven by a fully customizable character that walks a path chosen by the gamer themselves.
Like, so there's that just throws a whole, like, I'm going into the programming of this, man. Like, the number of variables to program into that game, because you're going to have so many different paths that people will want to take.
Right. It sounds to me, I know I'm not like the biggest gamer, but I do enjoy watching my son play games. When the new Star Wars game comes out, I play it for a little while. It sounds a lot like a Far Cry game or Red Dead Redemption, something similar to that.
Well, the ones that I played, it's been a while since I played, is like Batman Arkham City, which is a fantastic game, but it's a Batman open world. But there's still, and even so, the other one would be the biggest one would probably be Skyrim. Skyrim is one of the biggest open world games. It's set in medieval times, kind of a medieval world, kind of Game of Thrones-ish. But Zelda, if you play Zelda, is another open world game that you can go anywhere and do anything. So if I'm thinking of Zelda, there's still a path, right? So I still, even though I have and can go and do everything I want, there's still a path for you to take. And if you're telling me that I could do anything, how, like, I want to be a bounty hunter. Is there going to be a bounty hunter path? I want to be a Sith.
A Wookiee bounty hunter.
Is there going to be I want to be a Sith. Is there going to be a Sith path? I want to be a Jedi. Is there going to be a Jedi path? I want to be a politician. Is there going to be a politician path? I want to be a stormtrooper. Is there going to be a way to get into the stormtrooper and kind of go into the Empire and live as our friend Vinny, who wants to be the Imperial? Is there a path where I can live as an Imperial, get onto a Star Destroyer and drop bombs and blow up Topeka City and Camino?
Now you bring that up, but you said politician, and I sorry to jump off track, but I was in this article, in the comments section, I read somebody who had an idea for an Emperor Palpatine game based on politics, building an empire, running it, cutting it back and forth between, different missions with Darth Sidious, things like that. And I thought that was a really good idea for a game. That'd be something really different.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how it plays out and to see if I can have those threads, or if I can be a bounty hunter who becomes a Sith, or be a bounty hunter who becomes a Jedi and I'm a Jedi bounty hunter.
Yeah, I'm going to assume that you have to have bounty hunter, smuggler, Jedi, Sith. Like those four kind of have to be in there, in my opinion. And honestly, like, the capabilities of these open world games are getting out of control. Like even the new Lego Star Wars trilogy, or the complete saga game, you can open world fly to the different planets in that game, and you can open roam on those maps. Now, like you said, Brent, it's like there is a path to the map still. But like you can go to Jakku and be like, all right, like I'm gonna go over to the Rex where Ray was like, searching through the, Star Destroyers, and then I'm gonna go back to town or whatever. Like you can free roam anywhere you want throughout the galaxy in that. So like for them to be able to do that on a Lego game, and then I don't know if you guys have seen any of the footage of Hogwarts Legacy that's coming out. That game looks freaking incredible. That's an open world Harry Potter game that's coming out.
Is it a Lego Harry Potter or is it an actual
real?
Like, okay.
But it takes place. Alfie, are you familiar? What is it, like 300 years or something before Harry Potter?
Something like that. I've just seen some clips of it, and it looks pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, you can just hop on your broom or a hippogriff or whatever and, be like, all right, I'm going to go fly here. I'm going to go do this. And then they have the entire castle and just everything. So, whatever.
I just want to say that I have there's a part of my nerddom that just peaked to hear you drop hippogriff
I know, wasn't it awesome?
Very smoothly and like nonchalantly just dropped. You can drop on a broom or a hippogriff, whichever one you want to fly on.
Yep.
DDoc, you went to another level of nerddom in my book that is amazing. So just want to.
Hey, I'm a Harry Potter fan, and I didn't do those books till later in life. I saw the movies, but I needed audiobooks. I needed that. I didn't have the patience to sit down and read them. So
it's in a book.
Yep. So, all right. Do you got any other points, Alfie?
No, I think that's about it.
Do we really got to get into this?
Let's do it. I think it's going to be fun.
All right.
Well, it's funny because we've been talking about the sequel trilogy a decent amount, not even really on purpose here to start off this show. And I had written down today, I'll always have, for some reason, it's like I hardly watch regular TV anymore. I usually just have YouTube on my TV. And then sometimes it takes me on a path I'm not expecting. And today I wound up, they put on this documentary for The Rise of Skywalker, where it pretty much showed the making of the movie, and they mixed it in with clips of the original trilogy where they were showing a lot of the callbacks that they were trying to do when they were developing it. And then it would show them on set, and it would show Daisy Ridley, and it would show like all the cast. Like they looked so freaking happy making that movie behind the scenes. And it honestly made me feel kind of bad about some of the backlash that it does get, because honestly, one thing I'll say is I saw J.J. Abrams working his ass off on it to try to make it perfect, because they actually really went into the dagger situation where they wanted a part of the Death Star to be on that planet. And they originally had it being the actual what would it be called, like the disc that was the main gun on the Death Star. They had that sticking out of it, and JJ Abrams was like, it's too convenient, like we can't do that, like when the whole situation is convenient as it is. But they were showing all the different props that they were going to use as the puzzle piece to find the area that you needed to get to on it and stuff. And I don't know, it felt kind of good to see all of the hope in everybody that they were trying their hardest to make the best movie that they could, in my opinion.
So they go with the balloon from the Goonies, because that's still what I think of when they pull up the dagger with the little piece that slides out, is looking at the balloon to find the entrance to One-Eyed Willie.
Right. And I hate to be this guy, but in Jedi, the throne room area was on a tower that looked just like the Jedi Temple in the prequels. It was made to look that way. And when in The Rise of Skywalker, it's just like a little bump, to fit that little dagger thing. That didn't make sense to me.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because think about it. If you remember, Luke gets in the elevator with Vader, and they go up.
You're right.
The tower, and then it shows a flyby of the TIE fighters flying by that tower where the viewport was at, where the Emperor sat.
I don't know if I ever noticed the actual location of where it was at. To be honest with you, I've watched that so many times.
Yeah,
but
there's just a scene in the movie where they fly by.
I've never put two and two together that is where the TIE fighters going through is where the Palpatine's throne room is at on the I've never seen the outside or put together that is from the outside. That is where the throne room is.
This is what I do, Brent. I'm obsessive about it.
Again, this is why I'm also amateur hour, and I'm hoping that there's somebody listening that's in the same level of amateur hour as I am.
I'm with you.
Because I've never put that together to see where, I've seen the people flying by, you see the outside shots, you see all the war, you see all of the battle taking place, and from when he's looking at it and he's like, good. When you're looking at that, you see that it feels like it's a far distance away. It doesn't feel like that battle's taking place on the Death Star yet. It hadn't moved there. So I've never really put two and two together where the throne room was on the Death Star proper.
Look, it's just like the rest of the movie. It's a lot of fun if you just turn your mind off and not think about it and just go with it. And afterwards you think about it a little bit and it doesn't quite make a lot of sense because it's in the middle of the ocean. What if it eroded?
Right. And it could have fallen down. If it's a tower, it could have snapped and broke and fell over. But then the question is, if this is an ancient Sith artifact, how does it have such a new piece, a 20-year-old piece onto it?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about that. It didn't make a lot of sense to me once I started thinking about it.
Right. I was cool with it being a dagger, and I was cool because I think I can see somebody modifying it so they could get back there, right? Kind of like the one-eyed Willy doubloon, right? You're going to modify the Sith dagger so you can use it as a beacon to get back there. But why use the Sith language? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can keep this.
Look at him smiling.
As short as we want to. We could talk all night about this, but Joe had this written on the notes, and I want to definitely hit it. Was
thanks, Joe.
Luke Skywalker does his transformation from Return of the Jedi to The Last Jedi. Does his character arc make sense? Can you find a way to make sense of it?
I can find an easy way to make sense of it.
All right, let's hear it.
I know your answer.
Oh, do you? Yeah, you probably
yes.
Do. Mara Jade.
I know what your answer is. Yep, 100%. Because you think that Mara Jade died, and you think that he was standing on Ahch-To looking at a gravesite or a memorial to Mara Jade.
Right. I'm just saying, you include her in some of these. You introduced her in The Mandalorian, and sorry, my clock just went off. And make her death part of Kylo Ren's story makes more sense. Why he went away and secluded himself.
So
I'll let you go, Brent. Yeah.
So here's the thing, looking at some of the stuff that I've read in the EU, the books, right? So the stuff that was out, the Thrawn trilogy, and then when you get the new Jedi Chronicles, you have all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Luke becomes, and I refer to him as superhero Luke, right? Because that's more or less what he becomes. He becomes larger than life in a superhero, and a lot of fans wanted to see superhero Luke. And even if you don't go into that level of canon, they saw Luke stand up and drop his weapon and not fight, and to try to win his father back, right? Then you fast forward 25 years, he can't get a Jedi Academy off the ground. He maybe wasn't tapped to be the leader of the new Jedi. He might not have the teaching skills. And he's afraid that somebody else will turn into Vader. And he feels like they're going to be Vader. There's a part of me that as you get older and more jaded, I can see you becoming more fearful. I can see you becoming more worried about, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing something to create an arch nemesis that's going to kill the rest of the world? Am I up to the job? Do I really have the chops to do this? Yes, I stood up to people. Yes, I changed my father. I redeemed my father. But do I really have the chops to do what I think I need to do, and maybe I don't. And when you feel like you don't, and you feel like there's fear, you feel that coming in, that's the dark side moving in. And Luke might have had some dark side move in because he was afraid. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was actually really well put, what you just said there. I just can't get past him trying to kill his nephew in his sleep. Like, that's the only thing that I just can't get past.
I'm okay with that. And really, I didn't really have so much a problem with what they wanted to do with Luke, just how it was presented. To me, it just hit wrong. And I agree with what you're saying, Brent. I can see that as a Jedi would get older, as anyone gets older. But that was exactly the problem that happened with the prequel era Jedi and why the Jedi Order fell. You know, the fear of a student turning to the dark side is why they stopped teaching basically defense against the dark arts. They stopped teaching that because you get too close to the dark side. So then when they actually had to fight the dark side, no one outside of two masters was prepared.
Right, and they weren't even prepared, right? Because I always say this, Yoda, who was beating, I will go to my grave saying that Yoda was beating Palpatine in the throne room, and he turns tail and
not
runs.
in the least.
He had him falling down. If he would have continued,
Yoda fell down too at the same time. If anything, they were fighting to a draw, but Yoda realized that fighting to a draw or continuing the fight would more than likely lead to his death. And the only way to win was to run away and hide and wait for the Force to present a viable option.
But why are
Yoda defeating, even if there by a slim chance he was able to defeat Palpatine, he had already lost. The Jedi Order was destroyed.
That's true.
I agree with that part. And Yoda may have been thinking that, but in that moment, he was turning. He turned it. He threw it back at Palpatine. Palpatine was falling off of that.
Right, they both fall. Except Palpatine stops himself from falling. Yoda falls all the way back down to the ground and is presented with the choice: try to recover my saber and continue the fight, or run away and wait for a better opportunity to strike. I would highly recommend you. I understand that it's not canon and it is a book, but however, it is the novelization of the movie. And it goes into great detail what Yoda's thoughts were during that fight. And that basically, as soon as he started fighting, he realized it was over. He'd already lost, and there was no hope of actually winning.
Did it make sense for him to spin the platform before he threw it? Because it really didn't do anything. I thought that when I was watching it the other day when I was talking.
It's cool. It looks freaking cool.
It was just the complete opposite of what Palpatine was doing. Palpatine is the dark side, and he's just throwing them left and right, destroying everything. Yoda had some finesse to it, a technique. You know, I can stop you, and I'm going to show you. You know, you can throw 100 at me, and I can throw one, and it's just as effective.
It's true. That's another good point there. Yeah, I mean, it's you know, it's tough. I mean, because onto the Yoda topic, it's like, you know, you could say the same about Yoda. Yoda cut tail and went and you know, everybody loves Yoda, but he did cut tail and go into isolation for a while. It's different versions of the story, you know, but
it is different versions, and I think that's where, to me, I understood from the get-go we were never going to get Grand Master Luke Skywalker. Okay, I understood that. I was fine with that. I would have just liked to have seen a little bit of Luke Skywalker. You know, Han Solo has gone through some shit, okay? But when he comes in through the door of the Millennium Falcon, it's Han Solo and Chewbacca.
Absolutely.
Leia and Han have been through some rough stuff. Leia's been through some rough stuff with the government, you know, and the whole fighting the First Order. But when her and Han see each other, they have that chemistry again. That's Han and Leia. You know, that's R2 and 3PO. To me, Luke was just the one that kind of stuck out like a sore thumb. You didn't get much of Luke Skywalker. I wanted a little bit. Did I want him to take Rey under his wing and teach her everything, and they go off on an adventure? Yeah, but I knew that wasn't going to happen.
I mean, my big thing, and I've said it before too, is I see Luke teaching like he was taught, right? This is the one great thing in my world of education. My world of education is that we sit there and we teach the way that we were taught. We try to find new ways to do things. It's a 2020, but there are still teachers that are teaching the way that they were taught. We default to their greatest. I'm sure when you train somebody at your job, you train them the way that you were trained. The way that he was taught was to beat up on somebody, to ignore them. It was almost like Miyagi and Ralph Macchio in the Karate Kid. Like it wasn't the let me teach you the ways, young Padawan. It wasn't a Jedi Academy. It was like, I'm gonna have to like make it hard on you, and he was making it hard on Rey the way that Yoda made it hard on him. And he was like, keep up. Like in my mind, what I see when he was jumping over the pole vault to go catch the fish, he's like, keep up with me, young pup. If you can keep up with me, then you might have a shot.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with him training her that way, because she did have the drive. She did have the fight. She did want to keep up with him because she wanted to learn. And he didn't know if, again, because he had failed, he didn't know if he's had the chops. So he wasn't going to get into it until she proved that she had chops as well, to where he could go and then give her a couple nuggets left and right. And that's all Yoda. That's what we see of Yoda's training, is just dropping a couple nuggets.
Right, because Yoda was basically pulling some smoke and mirrors on Luke. He was never training him to be a Jedi. He was training him to be an assassin, right, who was strong enough in the Force to kill the Vader and the Emperor. But, and I think what we're getting at here with this topic is, if we see more of a Return of the Jedi Luke, is more of the fan base going to be happier than the part of the fan base that's happy with The Last Jedi Luke? And if we continue to build on season 2 of Mando and then the 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett, if he has a bigger part in, let's say, Ahsoka or Skeleton Crew, or whatever else comes down the line, his own show, because I firmly believe we're getting a Luke Skywalker show at some point. If not a Luke Skywalker show, he's going to be a central part of like the Mando Avengers.
It makes sense. I mean, it's like Luke Skywalker is technically like the Iron Man of Star Wars. It's like picture. He has that pull to him, and from a marketing standpoint, from a storytelling standpoint, I mean, why would you not go there? He is your guy. He is the main hero, of your original movies. So you have the technology to do it. I mean, why not?
It's very comparable to like Henry Cavill as Superman. If Man of Steel is your first movie or introduction to Superman, and you've never seen Christopher Reeves as Superman, it's probably going to be okay. You enjoy it a lot more. But if you grew up with Christopher Reeves and then you see, broody, undecisive Superman, you're going to be like, wait a minute, that's not Superman. How'd you get Superman wrong? Now, I will say that Man of Steel and the other movies, it did grow on me. I liked it, but it took a while because of how different that approach was. And I just think that with The Last Jedi, it is a lot harder for people to come to terms with that Luke Skywalker.
I'm also going to go on this is a personal opinion, which we all have them. I think it doesn't help the fan base when Mark Hamill himself goes on publicity tours and tells people that he didn't like playing that character. That just gives fandom an open ammunition and open AK-47 to say, see, our hero doesn't even like being that hero. It wasn't our hero. He's not our hero. Right. So it didn't help that he didn't put on the company and talk the company line and say, yeah, he grew, he was different. and he grew, and he went through some stuff, and he was exposed to different things, and he went through some tough times. He could have sold it and kept acting and sold it in the public eye, but he went on different talk shows and said that he openly wasn't necessarily a fan of this character, which doesn't help the fan base either.
Yep. Which he then took it back too, though. He said, you know, I needed to see the vision, you know, like I needed to see it all come to fruition. Like, but
he already
once
did
the cat's
damage
out of the bag, it's done. You know,
yeah, you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube.
He already damaged it, and it just didn't necessarily have to happen that way. You could have felt that way, and maybe 10 years later, like, so if you would have said that now, it would have a different ring, I think.
You know, I really just feel that a big problem with for me personally, I'll just keep it to me personally. I don't think the stakes of his isolation and the way he felt were high enough. I think if you would have maybe tuned it to where, like, you know, let's say like Jakku was his fault. Like he lost control of the force or something, and he destroyed both fleets, you know, something to that magnitude, then it would have made a lot more sense. But, you know,
or maybe if they were hunting him, right? Like that's the other thing too. If he knew that they were out hunting him, then he had to disappear. But you're right. It does seem very small that his school died, and therefore he runs.
And like he never talked to Kylo Ren about it, or, you know, at that time Ben Solo, and say, "Hey kid, look, man, you got the Skywalker blood. You know, this is what happened to your grandpa. This is what almost happened to me." And, you know, if some old guy starts talking to you about how you could be a more powerful Jedi and offering you powers, don't listen to it. That's a Sith. They're all Sith.
You just reminded me of the Back to the Future with old Biff Tannen going back to talk to Biff Tannen. If some wild-eyed scientist comes and tells you,
I mean, he never thought to like have that conversation with them. Like, hey, our blood is dangerous. We walk a fine line here.
Well, I mean,
if you ever have these feelings, just talk to me about it. Okay, let's not keep it in.
Luke failed on his first student, man. I mean, come on. He decided to drop. He was an early dropout right away. Grogu
I
dropped
call that
out
a failure,
immediately.
though. He gave him a choice.
I know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I know.
Maybe that's where Luke's soul started to turn right away, was when he was just like, what's wrong
Maybe
with this
he'll
guy?
miss Grogu and come back for him, just like Mando did.
But he also got turned down, right? He's like, you get a choice. He's hurt
still
now.
Cute, though.
Well, Luke, I'm saying Luke got turned down.
Yeah.
Luke got turned down, so he's like, yeah, you know what? The world's not as good and rosy as I thought it was. I gave him remember I gave you all these frogs in the pond.
He had so many frogs to eat.
Look at all these frogs you could have, and he turned me down.
Yeah. Well, what would you guys say we're good on that topic? You think we're ready to move on to Bad Batchery?
Yeah, let's talk some Bad Batch.
Yeah. I mean that was fun though. I think we've had a very civil conversation where everybody made different points about it, and I can understand all of them and, you know, still be fine at the end of the day. I survived. We all survived.
I just really think that this is going to continue on.
It's never going to stop, man.
Okay, and I agree with you, Brent. If nothing else new ever came out, it's never going to stop. But when something new comes out and you get post Jedi Luke, it's going to start all over again, but on the other side.
And I've said this before on the podcast, and I completely believe it. I think The Mandalorian season 1 and season 2 were unifying the fan base, and people were starting to forget about it. And then, you had to do it this way. And then Favreau and Filoni brought out the Luke that everybody wanted. And all it did was re-splinter the fan base again.
Yeah.
But why would the other side not love that Luke? That's the thing. It's like, I could see why people will have problems with The Last Jedi Luke. Why would the other side not want the original one though? Like what problem do you have with it?
Because they were because they were exposed to The Last Jedi. Like, again, you got to figure out entry points. They were exposed to The Last Jedi one first. They didn't necessarily know all of the lore to get into the Return of the Jedi Grandmaster Luke. So they they wouldn't see it that way. But I think it's honestly, I don't feel like it's the younger generation. It's more of the older generation that gets mad and says, see, that's what we needed. That's what we need to have.
It was a pretty awesome scene.
Oh, like, and like for the fan base, I feel like for the unification of the fan base, I wish it would have been somebody else, but it absolutely could not have been. It absolutely has to be that Luke. And I feel this splinter comes from the older fans saying, see, that's what if you could have just given us this, we would have been happy with The Last Jedi.
But like I said, I think it was a little bit of redemption for me because, yes, I got that Luke that I wanted to see. But it gives me hope that there's going to be something to fill in to how he became in The Last Jedi. Just give me something a little bit more to where when you... The hardest part for me, and I'm going to keep it personal, I saw The Force Awakens, first showing, first day. The excitement, the electricity when Luke turned around was out of this world. And to wait all that time and then it be turned into a joke, man, that hurt. That was like, I mean, that was just a punch in the gut.
Yes, this is what it was. It was like, oh, you want to see the conversation they're going to have? And that's what it was, basically. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that on YouTube.
I mean, that entire movie, The Force Awakens, built up to that moment. And it was so well done. It was amazing. It was an amazing shot. The music, him turning around, the hood, the metal hand, everything. And then you turn it into a joke. I mean, I get what you're doing there, what you're setting up, but I mean, you can't tell me no one working on that said, hey, people might really get upset by this. Like, this is the start of the movie. Do you really want like people to be that angry in the first 15 minutes of the movie? I know what you're trying to do here, but could we no. Let's piss them off right off the bat. I mean, hey, you got the cojones to do it. More power to you, but
and this will continue going on because not only does he have the cojones to do it, but he stands behind it and he continues to stand behind it, and he basically will tell people, "This is what I was doing it to make you see it in a different way." And
I get that, but and I think a large number of people aren't going to see it in a different way because they stopped looking the instant you did it.
Yeah, I'm with you. But the other part is like there were people that watched it and they were okay with it. There were people higher up. There were people that should have known Star Wars that were okay with it, and they actually were excited about it. They did test screenings, and it did well in test screenings. Like they did their due diligence with this film, and they were utterly shocked when it didn't hit with the fans the way that it should have been. They thought it would.
This battle will rage on forever, and I'm fine.
Correct, which is why I said, do we really need to do this? Thank you,
It's
Joe.
fun every time.
Thank you, Joe.
It really is fun every time. To me, I feel like I learn something new from it every time. There's a new point that I hear every time. There's maybe different feelings, and then maybe I might feel bad about it again. I don't know. Sometimes I feel good about it. Sometimes I feel bad about it. It's like it varies.
Because really, in rewatches of The Last Jedi, and I know we got to kill this topic to get to the Bad Batch, but I rewatched The Last Jedi with a blank slate, open. Let me get into this thing. I can deal with almost all of the Luke stuff except that one part. That one is just.
You're saying the throwing the lightsaber.
Yeah, throwing the lightsaber.
Right.
I just don't. I get the shock value, but it just starts the movie off in such a bad place to me.
Yeah, I remember that feeling sitting there in theaters and seeing.
Which the movie already starts in a bad spot for me because why wouldn't you shoot the fleet rather than the empty base? Shooting the empty base just pisses me off to no end. Oh, we caught him in their evacuation.
I just had flashbacks to ICCC.
Why would you shoot the empty base? They're right there. They can't go anywhere.
because they had a weapon that they wanted to use, and they wanted to show their power, because they're also not
blow
good.
up the ships. They're right there. They're not even moving.
No one in Star Wars is a good tactician. There's only one tactician, and he hasn't made a showing. He will in April or whenever Ahsoka comes on. That's the only one that ever had any like tactical smarts. Now, to go back to this topic, and like this topic is becoming like I have the high ground meme. I am so sick of hearing Obi-Wan has the high ground and all of the memes and all of like it's a nail on a chalkboard scratch when I hear that. Silverware across the plate. I hate that meme at this point because it is way, way overused. And I feel the same way about this topic, right? Because no one's going to change anybody's mind. Everybody's going to feel the same way that they feel. We can have good, honest conversation about it, but everybody's going to be set in their ways.
Yes.
And that's the way Americans are. We don't necessarily like want to come to a consensus. We can agree to disagree. We can be civil about it. But like, I feel like the Obi-Wan, the high ground is this, that these are the same thing to me. And it's like, thanks, Joe.
I would like to just make one last point. You know, I did just spend like 4 months unlocking Grandmaster Luke on my Star Wars game. I finally got him leveled up and everything. He is pretty awesome.
I'm sure he probably like, so in my Star Wars Legion game, the dude is like the most overpowered unit in the game. As well, he should be. Like, I'm not like mad about it, but he should be the hardest one to kill. He should be the one that, but like, yeah, like I get it, but.
All right, well, we hit it. We had fun. Moving on to Bad Batch.
It's just
we
a
have
episode.
We have a filler episode of Bad Batch, the solitary clone.
I fell asleep watching it.
You know what? Yesterday, my day, it was like I don't know what was going on, but I just never got to watching it. And it's like the kids got to sleep, and I came down here in my basement to watch the show, and I'm on the computer, and next thing you know, I'm working on like some videos for like my plumbing channel and stuff like that. And I'm sitting here like 2 hours later, and I'm like, oh my God, I came down here to watch the Bad Batch. What the hell am I doing? I'm like, let me go throw it on. I sit down, throw it on. And by the end of it, I was just like, holy crap, was this a freaking great episode, in my opinion? What were you guys, let's just go through initial thoughts. Let's hit some points. We'll start with Alfie. What did you think about this episode?
I cannot believe that this was an animated 25 minutes of television.
Yes. It's an animated show. That's what I told myself after it was done. I think I said it out loud. I was like, this is an animated show. It's crazy.
This one episode had so many layers to it, so many different ways to look at it, think about. And like I've said in our chat, you close your eyes for a minute there and you're watching the Clone Wars. And it was really easy. Good guys, bad guys.
It's true.
My biggest thing was it was 25 minutes. Like it felt like it was longer than 25 minutes, right? Like, and the other piece, I play my Star Wars Legion game. For those that don't know, it's a little tabletop miniature game. I talk about it all the time. But in tabletop miniature game, you have 4 main factions. You have the clones, you have the separatists, you have the rebels, and you have the Empire. And everybody prior to this episode was like, how do you guys play the rebels versus the separatists? How do you guys play the Empire versus the clones? They never existed in the same timeline. Well, boys and girls, watch Bad Batch episode 3, season 2, episode 3, because this one damn episode unified all of those timelines.
I'll give you that. So if you're going to count since the separatists were now against the Empire, you would consider them to be rebels.
Yeah, I like that. The people, right? I would put them in that rebel category, like the girl, the governor, the real governor.
Yeah, because
they were
Andor, he
controlling
kind of listed off all of the different factions that would be considered rebels, and he did say separatists. Actually, in Andor, he mentioned the separatists.
Right, the remaining separatists that are now realizing, like, so what was it on Bad Batch episode or season 1? The Raxus Prime governor that you think happens to be the monocle guy that's in the back row of the celebration scene of Yavin 4. So there's a possibility. You know what I mean? That's what I'm kind of
Mhm.
getting at. Like, I would call them rebels, but this even if you didn't have the rebels in this, you had 3 of the major factions fighting and taking place and existing at the same timeline. You had Commander Cody, and you saw the clone face mask armor, right? So the Mandalorian style face mask armor with the black lines and the strip down the middle. So you had the clone armor. You had early stormtrooper armor, because
the
the ones that were
TKs.
coming off, the TK droids were coming off with the 2 eyeballs. So you
Mhm.
had 2 different troops. You had Empire troops and clone troops. And then you had the B1s coming over the top and doing their Roger Roger with attack droid, telling them how to fight. I mean, you had 3 of the major factions of my game taking place and fighting in this one episode. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, and Alfie, do you know the name of that planet that this took place on?
Desix.
Desix, and is that a planet we've heard before in Star Wars? Do you
I
think?
don't believe so.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. It's like the woman who was I guess the governor there. You know, her voice when she was wearing the mask had that, like, you know, Star Wars. Do you know, like, the name? Is this all like a new race of people on that planet and everything? Like, is it all new or no?
It reminded me of like it reminded me of Leia's Jedi or
Exactly.
bounty hunter Leia. It reminded me of that. And then there was also, was it Embo? There was like there was like an Embo feel to him because of her mask and helmet that she was wearing over the top of her head.
Those were the exact vibes I got. I'm like, this is kind of like Leia. I'm like, it just feels familiar to me.
Actually looked like the disguise that Lando was wearing in The Rise of Skywalker.
You're right. I'm gonna need to go back and look at it now, though. I'm saying you're right, and you know what? I don't even remember what he's freaking wearing.
Yeah, when you said Lando, you were thinking Return of the Jedi Lando with the bone mouthpieces in front of him. Is what you were saying.
With the Black Series figure that I was just looking at recently.
Which was the same Lando that I was thinking of. That's why you spoke up, and I was still trying to figure out which one from The Rise of Skywalker and I didn't say anything else.
Hey, at least I admitted that I was full of it when I said you're right, and then I said, I have no clue what you're talking about, actually.
But I just want you to know I was in the same mental space you were, DDoc. So, like, because we're amateur hours over here, I guess.
Exactly.
You're never gonna let me live that down.
But I mean, there's a whole hell of a lot of points to hit in this episode. I mean, you've got Crosshair. This is a Crosshair episode. I can't help but to think, like, just seeing what they've brought for us in these first 3 episodes. I mean, I wonder, like, I feel like in the first season of Bad Batch, you felt like sometimes, I wouldn't say they took an episode off, but, like, you know, the weight of everything didn't feel like as much. I feel like this is going to be a pretty intense season after watching this episode, honestly.
The first season didn't seem to have, besides like maybe the first 3 and the last 3, an ongoing story so much as it was just an adventure of the week.
Yeah.
It was very A-team. I agree with you. I think this season, while they'll still be doing missions, will have a kind of underlying theme through all the episodes.
This one's definitely darker though too, right? Like, I feel like it's already started off being darker just because of the fact that the Empire is getting stronger, and no one really likes the way that the Empire is getting stronger. Andor had a darkness to it because it's a little bit further ahead in the timeline, but it's essentially the same thing. But it's the building of this Empire and how they go about building it. Right. Now, my next question to you is, like you said, it was a Crosshair episode. Is it a Cody episode?
That's true.
Could it be seen as a Cody episode if you are inclined to like the Clone Wars better than you are to like the Bad Batch?
Did Cody die at the end?
So just the way that Rampart said, right? Because I kind of alluded to that when we got in. He said clones just keep disappearing. So is he talking about clones deserting, or is he talking about them just gun smoking clones?
Dude, I didn't even think of that.
So I think Cody
alive.
Cody got away, but are they gun smoking other clones? Like, it was kind of a sinister way. And I mean, everything that Rampart said, now that he gun smoked Wilco, you're going to take with like, okay, what the hell is he saying? There's going to be a there's going to be a double meaning and a sinister meaning to what he's talking about.
Especially since he knows the Crosshairs, one way or another, wasn't truthful about what happened to the Bad Batch. So is he playing him along?
Yeah, he is, because the other thing that he was saying was like, how long did you stay alive on that platform before we came back? And like, how did you, like, more or less, how did you get to that platform? How did you know where to go for that platform? Mm-hmm. Like, you weren't the only one on that platform, and he knows now that the other Bad Batches were on that platform with him. Like, he knows, but Rampart knows. And Crosshairs is like got to figure out that he knows.
Yeah, and when he's talking to him, he kind of just has his little pad there, and he's kind of looking at it, and is just like, he's not very focused on his conversation with him. It's not like he's sitting up at his desk, looking him in the eye and talking to him. It's like he's sitting there on his little tablet or whatever. What do we call them in Star Wars again?
Data pads.
Yeah, data pad. He's on his data pad, and he's just kind of like, yeah, this is what I got going on for you. I thought it was fun to see Cody in this episode. I don't know. It was just, I mean, I guess we witnessed the turn of Cody, technically, right? I mean, by the end of this, he didn't feel right about it.
No, he said, the difference between the clones and droids were that they had a choice, and what they did or didn't do, they had to live with. And I think that really played into this episode, because, like I said, it felt like the Clone Wars when they're trying to go up that, ramp into the castle, and they're fighting battle droids. Got the sense that Cody was, he's in his element, but when he gets to the end of it, he's fighting. He realizes he's fighting for the wrong reasons. That yes, he fought for the winning side, but what it's become is evil. It's not the Republic.
Yep. Did any of you guys get Helm's Deep vibes when they were going into that castle? Because there was a bridge that they were fighting to get over, and I'm just like, this is exactly like Helm's Deep. I swear, I got to rewatch it. I only got to watch it once. I wanted to watch this one twice before coming on tonight, but there was one part when they were going over a bridge to get into that stairwell, and I'm just like, this feels exactly like Helm's Deep. And that's the kind of stuff where I'm just like reminding myself that it's an animated show for how well done the action is in this. I mean, it really is. To me, it's like, I think they're just hitting their stride with animated Star Wars shows, honestly.
I would agree. This episode had so much in it from, like I said before, who were the good guys in this episode and who were the bad guys? They touched on it the previous episode with who, Tech said he'd never thought of separatists that way, that they were just people fighting for independence. And for us personally, watching the Clone Wars in the prequels, they were the bad guys. But we'll go with Lord of the Rings here, since you brought out Helm's Deep. The little speech that Boromir gives when they killed all the Easterlings. He's standing over one and says, was this person really bad? Was he really evil? What made him, what threats against his life, his family were made for him to march this way? And now that the war's over, this governess, Ames, Tawny Ames, was, I think, very naive in thinking that she could declare her independence. She fought a war, lost, and then is going to say, you should give us what we fought this war for and just be okay with it.
It sounded like, okay, so if and I might be wrong, because we talked about this in the chat, but it sounded like, and again, I watched it a couple times, but didn't really devote to it. It sounded like she was trying to write to become independent during the Clone War. Like it sounded to me like it was during the Clone Wars.
Yes, she worked with Senator Bonteri and Padme.
And Bonteri, is she the blue chick? Who's Bonteri?
She was the one where Padme went to the Separatist homeworld and was trying to negotiate a ceasefire
with Jar Jar.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Jar Jar was with them.
It's not
But
the
yes,
one from like
basically,
the ice planet.
Palpatine, shut it down. There was going to be no ceasefire. There was going to be no peace under Palpatine.
Right. So Shiv shut it down, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that's what I was getting at. Like she was, I don't think she was like the whole thing that she was going to be independent. I don't know if she was necessarily naive. They were in the middle of that war, and she was trying to say, look, we don't want to be a part on either side. We want to be Switzerland, is basically the way that it was sounding. And he's like, nah.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen. You declared war. You don't get to say we're done.
Oh, sorry. I'm changing my mind.
Yeah, sorry. We don't want to fight anymore, but we would still like for you to accept our terms. It doesn't really work that way.
I didn't like the Luke that I was playing, but I'm going to change my mind. I like him now.
Right.
Full circle, baby. Full circle. Now, by the end of this episode, Cody lays his gun down and he says, like, it doesn't need to be this way. Like we're human. Like, let's not, let's stop the bloodshed, if I'm not mistaken, is what he said. And Crosshair then gun smokes her.
Yep.
So the question is,
good soldiers follow orders.
Exactly.
Jesus.
I can't help but to think to myself, watching this, is Crosshair staying within the Empire because he's still part of the Bad Batch? I had that thought in my mind last night. Although he's an ass for killing her, I really did think to myself, is he choosing to be an inside man for the Bad Batch in the long run, where he actually is still a part of them?
That could be a possibility.
It's wishful thinking.
It is. I mean, it's like my.
I think he just
thoughts.
wants, to be a clone and to do
he
what
just wants
his
to be
programming says to do.
I think he wants to be a soldier. I don't think he wants to be a clone. He wants to be a soldier, and he's doing what he feels a soldier would have to do, whether it's good or bad. He's still fighting the fight. He's still in that world, and anyone who feels that he's got redeeming qualities that he's going to redeem, he's one of those that I feel like I'm done with. I actually was like one of my favorites from when they did the whole thing in season 7 of the Clone Wars, and they introduced them in there. And they were like, this is the guys. I was like, oh, that's cool. A sniper who can basically hit anything. He'll be pretty cool. But at this point, I despise him. Like, he is the embodiment. You know that it's evil, and you're willingly supporting it.
Yeah.
Because
gun smoking her was wrong, but you did it anyway.
Right. Yeah, there's not much defense in killing her other than he was ordered to do it, and that's what he likes to do. You would think that there's an inherent, part of a clone that wants to follow the orders.
But it's not a real order. I mean, we give out orders to go play softball. It's not a real order.
Well,
I give orders and people
die.
I was doing a few good men line. I give orders and people die.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just something that like kind of crossed my mind, because I'm like, he's in deep if that is the situation. It's just like last night I kind of thought, like, what caused him to do this escape with the Bad Batch and everything. I mean, obviously this season is going to lead to a fight between him and the Bad Batch again. There's no doubt in my mind, obviously, that's what it's going to lead to, I guess. But can he do it though? Like, I don't know. No one likes him. You see him in the cafeteria. No one wants to sit with him. Like, he sits down to eat his meal every day, and then he's called to go do something else. I don't even think
he's in his room alone. And if you noticed, their quarters now are away from the Imperial quarters on Coruscant. They're no longer right in the middle like they were in season 1. So he's getting pushed away. The entire clone army that's left is getting pushed away from the Empire. You mentioned the TK troopers when they first go to the planet. Well, after they, successfully finished their mission, the TK troopers were brought back. So they were only needed to take the castle. And once the castle was taken,
I felt like it was
they were replaced.
I felt like the TK troopers are the ones that stayed, because in my brain when I was watching it, and I could be dead wrong, right? Like, but I looked at it and I felt like the ones that were staying and keeping watch over the shuttle taking off were TK troopers. So my brain was like, okay, so we're going to trust these guys to take over a new planet and start a new planet. We're going to trust the clones to try to rob another planet and take goods because we can't trust them to fight. So we're going to send them to do the cleanup work because we can't let them fight. We're going to let the TK troopers take care of the fighting.
See, I thought it was the opposite. We're going to send in the clones to do the dirty work, and once they've taken it out, we'll replace them with the TK troopers because they'll obey our
that might have
commands.
been fair. So yeah, they were the ones fighting because it was Cody, clones, and Crosshair doing the fighting. Then the TK troopers yes, okay, now I'm following you. The TK troopers stayed on the planet afterwards. They're expendable. They're expendable. If they die, they die. We'll let them die taking the planet, and we'll leave our TK troopers to hold it.
Right. Plus, a lot of those TK troopers were, pretty weak and were all hurt by the crash when they got there too. So a lot of them had to stay back because the droids actually had a successful hit when the ship was coming in. That part cracked me up when they shot their ship down. He was like, "Nice shot!" Yeah, they give each other the high five. Like,
now when they were in the cafeteria at the beginning, the two clone troopers were talking about the defense bill that was up for vote in the Senate. That will be the bill that starts the draft and then eliminates the clone troopers.
Interesting. Order 69.
Maybe. So Alfie, I'm going to get to this point because we've been talking for a little bit. I know we can go probably for a little bit longer. Yeah. Why, in our text string, in the Jedi Council, before we get on this, you alluded to the fact that this episode has implications for A New Hope, for Andor, for X, Y, and Z. So what are the implications?
Rogue One, everything.
Right. So what are the
biggest implication here is if you watch this episode, it shows you that you cannot openly be defiant to the Empire. Open defiance will only lead to your destruction. And like Cody was trying to tell the woman, it's going to be a lot worse. If you defy us, they're going to rain fire, and it's going to be worse than if you had just complied. So to defy the Empire, you have to do it covertly. You have to have the Skarsgårds and the Leias and the Mon Mothmas working in the shadows. You cannot, if you try to make a stand and say, our planet is neutral or we don't belong to the Empire,
you're dead.
You're dead.
I agree with you, but is this going to become public knowledge, right? So is this one incident going to become something that people hear about? Unless we find out that Luthen was that was Luthen's mom or something, or wife, right? Like, did Luthen live on this planet? And
Cody went somewhere.
Cody did.
Yeah, and we know Rex is going to show up too. So right. Rex is out there somewhere.
The Bad Batch is out there somewhere. They have ties to Saw Gerrera. If you watch the preview for the next episode, it shows Bail Organa. So people are going to pick up on this, what happened to this planet.
Yeah, it's moving. Do they have next episode previews out? Because I haven't watched that actually yet.
They're on YouTube.
All right.
Supposedly, and this is something I picked up from listening to other podcasts and stuff, supposedly they released the episodes to the bloggers so they could write reviews and have reviews posted. So most of the episode season has been released to some of the bigger news medias. So there are people that have access to it. So you could expect nuggets of leaks to be shown.
Cool. Yeah. I'm just
be aware when you're out there surfing the web that there might be some nuggets dropped because you can't trust the people that get that information.
Okay. Before we run out of time here, did you guys notice the wall that they were standing in front of, Cody and Crosshairs?
Yes.
You didn't notice that, Brent? It was in two different scenes, gigantic wall.
It almost looked like the Vietnam Memorial, basically.
That is let me find the name here. That is a war memorial to the clones lost in the first Battle of Geonosis. And it is made from a slab of Geonosian rock. and for some reason I can't find the actual name of it.
But they were separatists. Why would they have a memorial? Because they were separatists. There was a separatist planet.
No. The one on Coruscant that
Oh,
Cody
yeah.
and Crosshairs were standing in front of.
okay.
Yeah, there was like glowing orange lettering on
Right.
it when they had that conversation.
Now that used to be in the middle of the Republic Center for Military Operations. It's now the Imperial Inspectorate headquarters. And a little info on that building was designed by Orson Krennic.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. It was first seen in season 5 of the Clone Wars in the episode "The Jedi Who Knew Too Much."
And which Jedi was that?
I don't know. I didn't watch the episode before we got on here.
Okay. I mean, you have an encyclopedic knowledge. Okay. I listened to the conversation, but I didn't notice that
scene right there. I'm holding it up on YouTube.
Yeah, I don't know. My mind's drawing a blank on that one. I should have looked that up. And I apologize for that. Not being ready for that question.
Terrible. Lost 20 Alfie points.
Yeah. And evidently it's gone because you would have seen it in Andor. Because it would be outside of the ISB headquarters.
Or did they just shoot it in a different angle?
Could be. Or they just didn't talk to each other and say, hey, this giant wall should be here with lots of...
I will go that they shot it at a different angle because they didn't talk to each other and say, hey, there need to be a giant wall with names on it.
Yeah, but there were multiple statues of clone troopers in front of that. So I would guess they probably took it down.
And I'm sure they probably did because Andor is about 5 to 7 years forward of this ish. Like, I mean, like somewhere in that time, 5 to 10 years further forward in the timeline.
Yeah.
Because this is early.
Well, I'll say this, and honestly, I'll make this like my final thoughts of the episode is if this third episode showed us one thing, it's that they've already built layers to the Bad Batch in the previous season. I know we had a couple episodes with them in season 7 of Clone Wars, but the fact that we were able to just have a single episode that had to do with Crosshair and that it was so intriguing, honestly, I have a lot of hope. I don't know. I'm just really excited for this. I'm really enjoying this season. And you know what? It's like, because it's not live action, I feel like live action, I go into it with extremely high expectations every week. And for this, I'm just watching and enjoying it. And maybe I need to do that with live action a little bit more, but yeah, I'm just I'm really enjoying the show, and I'm excited for what we're going to get to see in this. So that's my kind of final point. Alfie, what do you got?
One final point going forward. I'm really looking forward to it. And one little thing I caught in Crosshair's room, he still has the Bad Batch crate.
Interesting.
So, there's that part of him that still hasn't let go. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, you look at it animated and you think, hey, I can turn my mind off a little bit and just have some fun. And, like I said, for a lot of this episode, it was just fun. Hey, let's blow up some clankers. We've watched 8 seasons of the Clone Wars. So, but then, I got a little deep. I had to start thinking about it a little bit. I thought it was really good, and hopefully this foreshadows the rest of the season. It just keeps getting better.
I mean, I don't know what you guys are talking about. I felt like this was just a filler episode with nothing really happening.
I could see that.
Yeah, it's just nothing but filler. I really hate when people say that, which is why I say it all the time. It's kind of like the high ground meme. Like it's filler. I feel like it's another one of those nails on chalkboard moments. I don't know necessarily. The Clone Wars era isn't something that I buy too much into, so I need people to help me through it, which is why I asked the Jedi who knew too much, which one was that? Those are the types of things. So like you're getting a mix of everything. You're getting the old Clone Wars for the old Clone Wars fans. You're getting the early Empire, and the early empire is becoming more and more evil. And I mean, the rebels showed how evil they could be by the burning of Tarkin Town. They and all of that stuff from season 1. And Andor shows you how evil they can be. And this show is like they've gunsmoked a couple clones. They killed a girl in cold blood. They've done a lot of stuff with, like, it's so like it's I'm enjoying, it's really twisted for me to say it that way, seeing the building of the early republic or the early empire and seeing how evil it really is, to see that they needed to be overthrown.
Yeah.
It was the episode where Ahsoka was blamed for bombing the Jedi Temple.
Okay. And it was Barris, right?
Yeah. But yeah, that makes sense because she sneaks into the military compound and it looks so Empire rather than Republic.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, and there's so many layers to this show we haven't even seen yet. We still haven't even seen Tarkin and like just a lot of these guys that are going to show up in this show. I mean, that we still got to see Palps. I mean, are we gonna see Vader this season of the show? You know, why not? Like, I know everybody says we make the galaxy too small. Well, the galaxy's kind of tight right now with what's happening, and these guys are very tight to the situation. So, you know, we should see Darth Vader at some point in the Bad Batch. Am I wrong?
I wouldn't see why not. If you're on Coruscant and you're dealing with the Empire, I mean, does he have to have a speaking role? Can he just walk by in the background? I mean, what is it you want here? Like a Rogue One hallway scene?
I want them to be on a planet similar to a situation, and I'm not going to go too long because we're at the end of this episode, but I want to see them on a planet. And I think it was in, oh my God, The Force Unleashed, when Vader's just kind of on like a planet, just doing an attack with stormtroopers and stuff like that, where Vader's just the guy leading the attack. I just want the Bad Batch to happen to be on a planet where Vader's there and he's doing it, and they're just like, oh my God, let's get the hell out of here. He does not need to talk at all. They're on a cliff, they see it from up top, and they just see this dude slaying people. That's what I want to see. Although it's kind of screwed up. I want to see it because we knew it happened. So
that would be pretty epic.
It would be awesome. They would just hightail it out of there and say, who the hell is that guy? All right, well, that's a wrap for chapter 187 of Rule of the Galaxy podcast. We hit a lot of points tonight. We talked about probably the sequel trilogy more than anything tonight, and I had fun doing it. I hope you guys enjoyed listening to it. As always, you can find us at Rule of the Galaxy SW on Twitter. You could email us at rulethegalaxy@gmail.com. You can find us on TikTok at Rule of the Galaxy Podcast, and you can find us on Etsy, Rule of the Galaxy, all caps. You could buy a t-shirt, a nice hoodie like I got here, hat, whatever you want. We got some Rule of the Galaxy gear on there. So for me, from Alfie, from Brent, until the next time, may the Force be with you.